I never thought of working for someone. You cannot change the surrounding of you, but you can change yourself and how you push the surrounding area of you. The education was everything growing up. Life is like a backpack, and you get to choose what you put in your backpack and what you carry forward. To me, the degree is less important. Choose what you want to become before you choose what you want to study.
So very practical experience kind of a learning.
Any brown parents wants their kids to be engineer, doctor, or lawyer. People think like AI is a new thing. Gen Zs and Gen Ys or millennials, mass majority want to be part of a mission or solving something. I think the biggest barriers in our life is ourselves.
To have a successful startup, you should be from a top B school.
I didn't go to a top of schools.
Should people take risks?
I think life without risk is boring. If you have that attitude of what is the worst thing gonna happen, and just do it. I think like look at around of your classmate, whatever they're doing, do something different. I love this. It's so fun. I think we just have to shadow what we expect to see.
You started ApplyBoard. How can very young people who are dreamers and aspirants, how can they step into it?
You have nothing to lose.
That's
what do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? The best thing is results. You show results, you make a progress, you can get something. The worst thing is results. If you don't show a progress, no result, you don't get. So there is no work and life balance as long as what you do you love. Yeah, as long as my families are happy and I have the power and the energy, I think everything else is in our hand and we can make it happen.
You're actually a wonderful person.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
So Meti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, and congratulations for expanding to India and the 10 years that it's been at ApplyBoard. It's great, the journey I've read, and it's amazing.
Thank you so much.
So, Meti, our audience is mostly youth under the age of 25. And this is where their journey begins, in life, wherein not just government jobs and preparation in that field, but also stepping into the private sector or startups, because this is a hotbed right now, especially in India. A lot of people are venturing into this side. So this is the city's aims to, get CEOs like you who have built something from the scratch, and what your journey has been, what the mindset has been. We want to capture that and we want to share it with our audience. So I want to know your journey from 0 to 1 and how you started at the age of 22 when people, look to date, you were founding a firm. So how has that been?
I'll try to give you a little bit of background. I think that perhaps gives you a little bit perspective where I came from, and my parents played important role despite the fact that they might not take a lot of credit, but they did. So I grew up in a family. My mom was a principal of middle school. So she was like, for as long as I remember, she was educator and was a principal. My dad was leading a portions of the largest tire company in India. He came from a state. He studied in USA 50 some years back, came back to Iran, and then he was there. So like we kind of grew up in our family that education was everything. Like my mom also was kind of known in our city, so we could have not be the baddest students. We always had to be the first one, and otherwise it would have been trouble for us. The reason I'm telling you that story, that actually led us to go to Canada, and I think that's where my life changed by getting that access to the different quality of life, quality of education. And then when we get to Canada, it took us about 18 months. We figured out all the process. I couldn't speak a word of English, so you need to figure out everything in a different language. You need to figure out how are you gonna even make the first few weeks work, let alone 14 years later. So that allowed us to, like, when we figure out every process, we get to Canada, that allowed us to like focus on our education. And when we finish education, that time actually, I think what Canada was facing in 2014-15 is what India is facing in terms of tech. Kitchener-Waterloo is where I live, and it was known as like a Silicon Valley of North. So there was a lot of tech things happening, and it was like, I think, being lucky to be at the right time. I count myself as one lucky person. And it was just a synergy of surrounding us. Tons of a startup was creating, and we're like, you know what? We faced a problem. We might just do it. I never thought of working for someone. I only have worked for someone 2 hours, which was a gas station that I was a cashier for 2 hours, and that's about it. So I never thought of myself. I was like, I struggle, I do everything, but I will not work. And I did. Prior to ApplyBoard, I had a marketing company for a year, and I struggled to hell. To maybe I would have made more money even if I would have stayed at the normal job, but I still chose to go that path. So we just knew that we want to do something on our own, and we want to solve a problem. And I think what drove us to start ApplyBoard was just solving the problem that we face. And then the rest is a history.
So, Meti, how about the 0 to 1 journey? Like, were there any gaps that you identified when you moved as an immigrant to Canada?
I think it depends on the perspective of people. There is always gaps. There is always something to improve, right? Like, I try to personally be very optimistic as when I see the gaps. Like there's in everything in our life, I feel there are gaps. But was it an easy journey? Absolutely not. Like, take it from financial disability that Iran had that time. Everyday dollar was changing. Imagine you wake up right now, instead of 80 rupees per dollar, becomes 160 rupee per dollar, right? Like, it's very uncertain time. Every part of the journey had its own challenges, but its own rewards. I think, like, in the world that we live in, it's up to us to put our best effort and manage a society, right? Like, I tend to tell people, you cannot change the surrounding of you, but you can change yourself and how you push surrounding area of you. I think that's the attitude that I always had. Otherwise, like 10 years, I can write 10 books for every year, and every year had its own challenges. And the moment you feel like you just passed the other challenge, something new will start. But that's the fun part of, I feel, building anything, right? It's never ending fun challenges.
Oh, that's a great advice. So, how did education play a role?
Education was everything growing up. Like, we didn't have that opportunity not to be a good students, which is I'm grateful for my mom. So we grew up being always the top of the class, and then we were just about 17 and a half years. So this is about 14 years ago. We decided we want to go to Canada, and we went to Canada. We started learning English for the first 6 months. And then we went to college. We studied in college. I think the biggest thing, that my absolute biggest takeaway from my time at this school was, one, learning how the Canadian culture works. That really helped me. Two, education system in Iran is not meant for teamwork. It's meant for individual contributor. The better you are, the more you can shine. At least in the K-12 sector, I must say, because I only went to, I finished my grade 12 in Iran almost. So, whereas in Canada, I learned how to interact with people. Believe it or not, I was a very shy person before I gone to school in Canada. So, I learned how to teamwork, how to interact with people. I learned how to be way more disciplined as a person. So, I think the biggest things that I learned from a school in Canada wasn't necessarily just like the education or the field that I study, was actually the discipline that I took forward for myself. And I think that's the biggest gap that people not realizing. They think that the degree matters. To me, the degree is less important. What you take up at the end of the degree matters. I tend to say life is like a backpack. And you get to choose what you put in your backpack and what you carry forward. So that's the same for schooling. Like, you could be the best person and top of the class and the best graduate, but you didn't take a lot of skills away, and that's not going to necessarily put you in a success. So I believe in experience and skills far more than degree as a whole. And that's what we always try to tell people, like, choose what you want to become before you choose what you want to study.
That's a very fair point, Meti. So, on this, I'm going to build it further. You have been across countries and globally, what is your take on the education system? What is your favorite part, and what do you think should be there? Because the landscape of education is changing a lot. We in India are having national education policy 2020, and lots of education frameworks are changing. So what do you think specifically for K-12 should be there in education?
It's a great question. I never thought of the K to 12 as much as that I have thought about the post-secondary.
You can build on that as well.
Maybe I'll try to elaborate on the post-secondary piece before I go to the K to 12. I think as a whole, we need to recognize there has been two sides of the world, right? Like more developed country, now developing country, right? Like where I came from is still developing, arguably. So, and the top best institution had the decade, if not century of time to be more advanced to maybe institutions that there are arguably else in the world. I think we should recognize that piece. The quality of education is very different everywhere. And that actually what excites me, because I wanted the same quality for every student, irrespective where you are from, whether you're from the smallest village from my town or the biggest city, call it, let's say, New York as an example. I want the same quality of education. And I think there is a lot of room to get there. But where I see education 50 years from now or 20 years from now, set aside the quality of education, I think should be fair and available to everyone. I think education has become far more experience-led. I think with the fascinating things that we're seeing out of AI right now, you could argue that a lot of disciplines that we study or the courses that we studied at institutions makes no sense anymore. For example, I'll give you an example. Prior, you said you were the writing journalist. Yeah. You can be journalist at any point right now with ChatGPT. Yeah. Right? Writing is one of my, out of my four skills of English, writing was always a struggle for me. Now I'm arguably the best writer you can find. So when you think about it, it's do we spend too much in the school right now than teach people how to write? Or do we focus more on the tangible skills? Because 10 years from now, you most likely are not going to even type anything. You're just going to speak to it.
It's changing already, right?
Right? So I think these are the thought process that we should get ahead of it.
So very practical experience kind of a learning.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be a set of two jobs. Jobs going to be very massively disrupted by AI and technology. Jobs that's going to be very far away from disruption. For example, trades program. Especially in the developed countries, like if you want to find a plumber, it's very hard because it's a very skilled job. Or technicians or nurses. Like, for example, doctor is going to be far more productive through the AI, but I still want a doctor to be. I think that the psychologies of what's going to be there, where stuff not going to be there is important. So I think in the next 20 years, we're going to see the biggest disruption in tech, in education. And I must say, education is where it is. FinTech was 20 years ago. So if you think 2025, we're almost in 2025, I think we're just like talking the way that we talked when PayPal brought up an opportunity for you to transfer the money. Now it's a joke. You can transfer money to anyone at any given point, just having their cell phone number instantly. But that wasn't the case 20 years ago. 2006 was like just a new era thing, like how PayPal. I think education is right there right now. So the next 20 years is going to be the years that we're going to see so many transformation and disruption, which is exciting. It will go back to that earlier what I mentioned. I think it's quality of education become more important. And maybe the only thing that I touch on K to 12, it is incredibly, like when I go back, let's say myself, when I was like 16 years old, 15 years old, if you would have said what you want to become, it would have been very different answer. I thought I'm going to be a civil engineer, and I loved construction, meaning like I wanted to build, be someone in real estate. And sometimes like say, no, I'm a creative. I want to be architecture, and I want to do the interior design. that change, what we cannot control is how the life navigates you through, and a lot of unexpected things happen. I said I'm one of the luckiest person because ApplyBoard happened to my life. I was at the right time, right place. So I think like K to 12 needs to a little bit understand how to forecast a little bit of tomorrow, because we choose our field on grade 9. You're a mathematic, you're a scientist, or you're general. This. But grade 9, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Maybe like with the now social media, you have a better idea a little bit compared to 16 years ago or 17 years ago when I had to make that choice. But I still talk to a lot of students. They're still confused. Like, what's good gonna be 10 years from now for me is very different what's good look like for my classmate 10 years from now. I think there is a lot of interesting things that we have to think of it. There is this saying says any brown parents wants their kids to be engineer, doctor, or lawyer. Is it still the case?
Yeah, it is.
But you can argue that you don't need to be doctor to make that much money, or you don't need to be doctor to change that life.
It's true.
You most likely have seen far bigger entrepreneurs or business people that have lifted a lot more people out of change their lives in it, whether they're customers or that, than doctors. Not saying doctor, huge respect for them, but I'm saying the world is changing. Some of the mindset are still to change, but I think exciting times are ahead of us.
Definitely. How can students leverage AI?
I think the most important things right now, and this is, by the way, I don't think it's a student thing. I do that every day. Whenever I do something, I first Google it if there is any tools out there that does that job easier. Like, you wouldn't know until you don't search. I frankly think like something like ChatGPT as example is gonna make any students 50% more productive. I wish that I had ChatGPT when I was going to school. I spent so much time on things that didn't increase a lot of my. I spent so much time on a lot of things that didn't increase my knowledge, in a sense. I don't know. It's a little bit interesting. Like I said, writing. I love ChatGPT because everything I write now I have trained my ChatGPT, so it talks like me, writes like me. You would never notice that this is me writing through AI or I'm writing this.
Oh, wow, that's a very smart point.
Yeah, I still write it, but sometimes now when I'm on go, I just tell it, I want to write something like this. Gives me exactly how I would have written it. But this is a very small thing, made me 20% more efficient in a week. That means I have 8 hours more to focus on what I be more efficient around other stuff. So
right, and even your company is using AI.
Oh yeah.
So how is that coming out?
We've been using AI for more than 7 years. It's like people think like AI is a new thing. AI is over 50 plus years old, right? Like last 2 years with the rise of ChatGPT, we're all of a sudden talking about AI. But we've been utilizing AI for quite some time. It's like whether taking it from responding to our students around the world, whether like reading the documents. Like reading the documents are very complex. It takes for one student to go to one institution, it's over 1 billion combinations for one student to match to one schools. Because take it from, let's say, India, different state, different education system, different things. Now times that to 200 different countries. Every institution had its own. So we have utilizing AI for quite some time to really remove the process of human and automate the entire validation, verification, all those stuff. But that's a small piece of it. What I'm mostly excited in the next 12 months is figuring out how we would be able to respond to students' inquiries spontaneously, but the most accurate way. I think that's what I'm excited, because there is a lot we can do. We have significant data that we can do. That's something that can make us far more valuable, and most important, our students can become more successful. There's so much on AI. There's so much that we are doing. It's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time. I wish sometimes that I would have started a business today.
Oh, I was about to ask that. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you were 20 or say 18, and then what were the things you would do differently?
if I was 20 today, the technology and the sector was so different. So I think like it's a new thing that we would done. It's still in the same education industry. I think like for the next 20 plus years, I want to dedicate my life to solve the problem that we're trying to solve. But the technology is very different. Like you can build a website by the end of the day.
Right, right.
I built the very first ApplyBoard website. It took me 3 weeks to build just a 2-pager website up. That's a 10 years ago. So like when you think of it, so it is so much more. And there's a bigger problem to solve. And people are more ambitious to solve a bigger problem. So you can find a lot of great people. Like one of the best things that's happening with Gen Zs and Gen Ys or millennials, mass majority want to be part of a mission or solving something. 10 years ago, it was a little bit different. Now, like a lot of people choose where they want to work for, or work with, or work for the companies they want to work for, purely because of the mission of the company, not financial beneficiary is coming after that. So it's just, that's very significant in North America. So
Right.
I think it's exciting time to start business at any time, but I would start now.
So Meti, there's a notion, that to have a successful startup, you should be from a top B school. And I know that you don't believe in it, and neither should anyone. Can you build more on that? Because I'm sure the audience wants to know.
There is two way I answered that question. I think the biggest barriers in our life is ourself.
That's right.
There are so many significant and incredible people you see that became successful, that their odds of being successful was very low, but they became successful. I'm not saying that good education does play a significant role for entrepreneurship. I'm not disputing that. It's a fact. Look at the top 100 universities in US or top 10 universities in India per se. There is a significant. But the main reason is because they filter and they choose the best of the best. So of course, if I'm the smartest, as let's say in my country, get to go to this institution, my likelihood of coming out that. Having said that, I've seen so many incredible people gone to those institutions that I'm like, they needed to be one of the best entrepreneurs that they're not. And you see vice versa. I didn't go to a top of schools. I think at the end is the start with us. And yes, you might not have that education background. As long as you have the will and persistence, you can make it. People give up. People do try, but people give up fast. And I think that's where it drives a lot of things. Again, it does play a factor where you graduate, and it will continue to be the case. But success does not limit to our education. Success, we are the biggest limitation of our success. That's truly, I believe on. If anyone want to work, if they want to be successful, my very first thing, how many hours do you work? Work double that. If you work 40 hours, work 80 hours. You will be successful. But if you're thinking of going to office that everyone works 40 hours and you're going to put the 40 hours and you're going to be more successful, the odds are low. Not a single entrepreneur that I've chatted. I still work 80 hours in a week. Wow. Like literally this past 6 months, I had one weekend. So 10 years in the business, and I do it with the enjoy. I enjoy it. I have so much joys out of what I do. But like I still feel if I don't do it, I'm gonna be rusty and I'm gonna have someone else coming ahead of us. There's always more smarter people, more hard worker people out there that are gonna surpass you. It's up to you to keep going and pushing forward. So I think it all depends on people. It starts with ourselves, and then the environment play a factor in our life.
So Meti, should people take risks, and what role does it play, or is it okay to stay safe?
I think life without risk is boring. Right? I have an analogy. I traveled in 29 countries, and whenever I travel, my team is like, "What food do you want to try?" I said, "I try everything but 3 animals," and being precise, I say it because I want to try everything. Like, yeah, maybe I don't like something, but doesn't allow me. Or first time I did bungee jumping, I was scared of height, but I still did the bungee jumping. What is the worst thing that's gonna happen? I'm gonna get scared, calm down, everything. Last time I checked, no one has died from the bungee jumping, right? Like the odds is very low. So I think like if you have that attitude of what is the worst thing gonna happen, and just do it. This like what is the worst thing of someone that starts a business? It happens. It fails.
Right. Yeah.
What is the worst possible thing? You started a business, 2 years later, you fail. You're still far more successful than anyone else surrounding you. And the worst case scenario, you start going back to the job that you had with the 2 years of more knowledge. So I think like it's always the worst case scenario. I run it usually 90% of the time, worst case scenario does not happen. Like how many times have you been stuck in traffic that you think you're gonna miss the meeting and you stress yourself so much, but most likely everything will be okay. Yeah. So I think that's that. I take a lot of risk. I still do. Sometimes I make very fast decision and my brother tells me, go slow down. But I do take risk every day. I think life without risk is not, it's boring.
Right. When was the last time you took risk?
Biggest risk or a small? Every day I take a risk, you know.
Okay, biggest risk.
Last 3 months, internally, we made a significant change on how we operated as a business. And that I remember we were planning for 6 to 9 months. How do we operate? How do we change it? And in 6 days, I said, done, we're changing it. And it was a significant, like every person needed to, almost 400 people need to wake up next day and have a different job to play. Early signs says we made the right decision, but too soon to count the chicken. So we'll see how many hatches for now.
So Meti, when you talk about planning and then execution, what's your journey? How do you take decisions and then how do you execute them?
Very good question. I think the first and the most important thing, I know my weaknesses. I think a lot of people try to focus on other people's weaknesses. I know my weaknesses. I have it written down. I know what I'm good at it. I know what I'm not good at. I give an example. I'm really good at starting something for the first 30% of it. Okay. Nor I do enjoy the last 70%, nor I'm perhaps the best. Maybe I can get it till 70%, and the best of me, the last 30% frustrates me so much. So then I know when I'm starting a project, I'm best and I enjoy so much to be front of it, but then I will pass it on. I know when to pass it. That's an example, right? I'm an analytic person, but I can digest data, but I cannot digest text. So, and then I try to, for example, if I'm learning something, put it in audible or visual. I need to see things. So when, for example, something requires a lot of reading to make a decision, I rely on my colleagues because I know that's not my cup of tea, or I want them to give me a bullet point. So I think that's just a few examples of knowing your weakness. But I tend to say telling people it's not my job to make the decision, it's my job to teach people how to make the decision. And I always tell people, come to me if there is a problem, attach your solution. I would tell you how I would have made that decision. That's about it. It's up to you to make that decision. I do believe in the people should take, going back to the risk, take the risk and make mistake and then ask for forgiveness, not permission. So I always encourage my peers that work with me closely to say, ask for permission, to ask for forgiveness, not permission. But of course, there is tons of stuff you make the decision as a co-founder of the company. Yeah. And I'll try to make those. And if I make a bad decision, I'll tell people it was a mistake and move on. If it was a good decision, okay, great, move on. So I'm not afraid of being wrong. So I've been wrong most likely every week of my life about something, and that's okay.
Okay. So, what was the biggest mistake in the?
I can write a book. So many mistakes. But here's the thing: you never make a decision because you knew that's going to be make a mistake. You made a decision based on the input that you had, and the output was different than what you expected. So that decision was arguably a mistake. But if I go back, Would I make the same decision? Yes, because I didn't have the knowledge about it. So I think we shouldn't necessarily be hard. Yeah, right now, this conversation, I cannot take a second go backwards. So then what am I gonna do? Like I always try, it's like we control what's ahead of us, not behind us. We can only learn from it. So mistakes happen. We learn how to walk by falling so many times. Sometimes we, as a kid, hit our head so many places that our parents think we're not gonna even function when we grow up. But that's how the life works. That's you fall before you run.
That's quite inspiring for me as well.
Thank you.
So, to the students, what are the skills apart from the school knowledge that they are gaining? What are the skills they should gain?
I think look at the round of your classmate. Whatever they're doing, do something different.
Oh wow, that's a great point.
If everyone is focusing on become the best writer, maybe focus to become the best listener, as example. I think there is two type of people. People that like to follow the trend, people that they drive the trends. Right. Be the one that drives the trends, irrespective of what the skill it is.
That's a great advice. How can young people figure out what career they should get into, what's right for them? You somewhere mentioned, a class 9 student, a grade 9 student doesn't really know what they should be doing. They're just getting driven by what their parents are expecting out of them. But how should they take that decision?
You know what? This is something that I've been thinking about the past 10 years. Maybe this is an idea that I have and I shared it with everyone, so let it be hopefully someone to do. I wish that there was a way that you could have lived your future and act as a fireman to see how it is in a virtual world, and you would say, do I like it or not? Or you could have shadowed someone. For example, I never recognized that I love sales and partnership. I wish that somehow we could have see what's the future look like or shadow that. I didn't know I like sales or partnerships. I had no idea. I managed to, one of our courses in college was you had to go shadow a salesperson and see the cycles of a sales. And I did that for a day. So one day I'm entirely with this person and I was like, oh my goodness, I love this. It's so fun. You're satisfying, it's your effort that's coming out. And that was a pivotal moment for me that I said, I love talking to people and I enjoy closing something. So I think we should try to expose ourselves more. Maybe that's the only thing that we can. Maybe try to, if you want to be a doctor, maybe see if a family friend, just go one day in the office to see what does their life look like. And of course, there's tons of content out there. I think we should imagine ourselves a little bit there and say, what is the life of content creator is? What is the life of entrepreneur is? What is the life of engineer? And do I want that life? I think that's the question. If you want money, there might be 10 programs that you might not ever, there are 10 fields that you may not ever enjoy it, but it's the best moneymaker things. You don't need to be a doctor to make a 6-figure job anymore. Right? So I think we just have to shadow what we expect to see. And that's something that not a lot of institutions do a good job.
So this is actually not there in schools as well. I mean, this thought, if it's there, even parents and any seniors or mentors, I think that's a beautiful thought to put forward to students.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to the startup piece. The startups here in India, and when you were 22, you started ApplyBoard. How can very young people who are dreamers and aspirants, how can they step into it?
You have nothing to lose. If I'm living with my parents, which is most of the youth, at least in many of developing countries are, your parents are supporting you. Ask for 2 years of mercy, so 2 years more support me. You have nothing to lose. Again, worst case scenario is you're going to start your journey 2 years after other people. Every of your classmates going to get a job when they're 20, you're going to start at 22. Whether you're 22, you quit your job, you start something by the age of 24, you know what's going to happen. If not, you go back. There is nothing to lose. And there is this tendency we have to wait longer to try. No, the moment you're married, you have now commitment to someone else. Your risk averse come down. The moment you have kid, now you're responsible for someone else. Our curve of responsibility is very interesting in our life. You're least responsible when you're growing up for anyone else. In most cases, you start gaining responsibility. Your responsibility tend to increase by the almost when you're above 40, 45. Mm-hmm. And then it become a parent's responsibility. Now you have older parents to take care. Mm-hmm. In a case that they're like your first, maybe your second kid. And then by the age of 60, usually you get freedom, but it's too late. Mm-hmm. So you have to really use that first 10 years curve that you have. Until 30, you have far less responsibility in your shoulder. The moment you're married, you have kids, your parents are older, they're gonna take more time out of you. So I think like it's the best time actually to start anything is call it between 25 till 35.
So the younger, the better.
Yeah, sometimes you need the perspective of the life. I didn't mind having 2 or 3 years experience working with other people instead of like learning how to manage people or learning, like I learned everything, how to manage people, how to talk to people, how to be performance. Like a lot of things I learned on my own. I didn't mind someone would have paid me to learn those. But again, it's different for people. People know themselves better than anyone else. Your parents don't know you, your partner don't know you. You're the only one that know 100% of who you are as a person.
A lot of people actually don't know themselves, I would say, during the younger years. And so the question here is, how do they explore?
I think everyone knows themselves. You just have to start writing it down.
Oh yeah, that's
what do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? What do you get excited? At the end of the day, when you come home, write it down. I really enjoyed conversation about gen therapy. I didn't like politics. This group was, just write down what gives you the joy, excites you, what didn't excite you.
Such an easy way to figure yourself out.
And then you kind of know. Like I will be the person that can sit beside you and talk politics for the next 2 hours. Why? I love news. I read it, I enjoy it. I would be the least interested to sit here and talk geographic with you. It's not my interest. So like I know that when I was most likely 16 years old, that I enjoyed when my family were talking about something politics related.
Oh, you enjoyed it?
Oh, I was always like looking for who was talking. And I always did not care much about the geographic or historical. I think it's boring to me. I don't want to know too much history of this stuff. I want to know what's happening today and around me. What am I missing, right? So I don't know. It's just, I think people know it. Society plays a significant role. We're living in a world which is somehow more exciting, but sometimes less exciting. You consume a lot through your phone. Specifically, this video, TikToks, Instagram, that. And it's been set the way that you can go to a very rapid hole. Like the algorithm is very strong. It was so scary for me. I don't have any social media except LinkedIn. I don't have anything on my phone except LinkedIn. Because I felt it's just getting to know what is my mood and what it plays. So it became a rabbit hole that I was just interested in one content. So I think like that's the whole thing. We just need to be aware around our surrounding. If you could change your surrounding, that's the best part of it. You could choose who to hang out with. You could choose what movie to watch, what not movie to watch, what book to read, what book not to read, what restaurant to go to eat, what restaurant not. You have that control as long as you are in the control. I think a lot of youths let it go. Yeah. Society takes care of them, and there is a lot of woke mentality out there, and then that becomes your mentality, and you think like, why do I even try? Yeah. I think that is the mindset that it starts all with us. And I know when something is influencing me and I'm being biased about my decision, where something is not influencing me and I'm not biased about my decision. You get to that awareness if you really practice that you know what's going around you at any given point.
Fair. So as teenagers, like how you're telling, these are formative years for teenagers, and with the access of social media and YouTube and all of these video games and everything, what role should discipline be in this thing for the students, and how should they curb this?
Again, go back to the desire. Like a lot of students have a different desire in their life. There is a different destination. So think of our life as Google Map, okay, or Waze. You know where you're going. You wouldn't know how you're going there. And there are, let's say you put it, it shows you some sort of direction, but at the end, you're the one that driving the car. You can at any given point stop. Google will not tell you stop. At any given point, you feel like the traffic is getting heavy, I'm gonna go this way. You're in control at the way. I think that's how the life is. Destination maybe is to make it, be rich, to be healthy, to be there for my family. You have that. You kind of can see what the path is, but as long as you control that path, I think that's the most important things for any youth. And again, like if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I exactly imagined my house. I imagined what cars I want. I thought like I'm gonna be the richest person. I wanted all this money, and da 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 da. One moment, life things turn everything around. I was like, I do not want to work for money. I don't care about money, and I still truly don't care about money. I care about what I do. I enjoy my life, and that's about it. So that changed. I didn't know that's gonna come. So there is a lot of uncertainty comes. As long as you have some sort of idea, put your best effort. The rest is the story. The best part of the life is you have to enjoy every day of your life. You can't just say, I made it. And say, I made it at the age of 70, I had a great 70 years. It doesn't work like that. Every day you have to have a great day. Every year you have to have a great year and truly enjoy your life. And when you made it, you have a 7 years of good years. Then that journey itself is very important. A lot of people just focus on destination and forget there was a journey to follow too.
How was the financial journey when you started?
Again, going back to say, I think like we were lucky in a sense. When we started ApplyBoard, very, very, very first time we thought of starting was actually about 10 years ago. When we officially started was like mid of 2015, so just short of 10 years. We had no idea. 3 Iranians, me and my 2 brothers started ApplyBoard. 2 Iranians, no idea. We're not even Canadian permanent residency on a visitor visa, on a work visa. So we have no, call it background. We're not senior entrepreneur, nothing. The first $500,000 that we raised as a startup, and that time that was a lot of money, things has changed, was from 23 investors. So the $500,000 divided, in average would have been $25,000 per person. So a lot of people that maybe their entire net worth would have been $2 million gave us $25K. And I'm glad that we managed to return a lot of those folks' money so far. So it was just like a 9 months of hearing no, educating people what our business is, what's gonna be, what's not. And the first one landed. And then we made a mistake. We bet it on the wrong farm. We had to pivot with very few months of run rates in the business. And we weren't getting ourselves paid. Like we didn't even pay ourselves salary for 2.5 years in the business. I was getting $500 as a salary per month because that's what illegally we had to do to just put ourselves in the name. That's it. Like, so it wasn't meant to draw money for us. It was always for people. How do we enhance them? How we can build the product faster. And in 2016, we got lucky, and it's still to the date, this person is one of my biggest mentor. He was Iranian himself, went to US 40 years ago as an international student, so he knew what we're talking. So he gave us $500,000 through his network. And then we kind of start showing progress. The best thing is result. You show results, you make a progress, you can get something. The worst thing is result. If you don't show a progress, no result, you don't get. Then we raise almost 10 million, I could be wrong, about 10 million USD. Then we raised 35 million USD. Then we raised 100 plus million, and then we raised 300 plus. So like we kept then raising at this, and the last time we raised was 2021. So just first year of pandemic.
Oh, how was pandemic for ApplyBoard?
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. Our business was growing at 350%.
Oh.
And then the pandemic happened. We had a flat year. It was punch in the gut. So, but we made it. I think pandemic was incredibly, like again, go back to the victim mentality. Do you want to be the victim or do you want to control your life? It happened. What am I going to do about it? But I can change, adjust, move fast. And we took a lot of risk in pandemic that could have put us out of business or could have make us more successful and paid off. And we became more successful. So I think that's the beauty of it. Like I'm literally said it in past 10 years. Every year we dealt with something that taught me so much. This year, for example, I learned so much about how important it is your business to be diversified. Everyone tells you, but until you go through something, it's very different. Yes. So every year is something learning lesson. I still can't believe like 10 years I've been doing this. It feels like 2.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes feels like 100, sometimes feels 2. Yeah. Today feels like 2. So.
Great. So I think the mentality has a lot to do with the mindset. So we are coming to a close, but I want to know, what does your typical day looks like?
My typical day, it's boring. No, actually not boring. I love my days. So generally speaking, I tend to wake up. I need my 6 to 7 hours of sleep. That's how I best function. I learned early days I cannot take away from my sleep. So I tend to I wake up about 7, have my first coffee. The first 15 minutes I read news, kind of said it. Look at my email quickly. By 7:30, 7:45, usually I leave, go to office. And then I'll usually do meeting all the way till 5:36. And then come back home, take an hour and a half, have some meals, take some rest. And then I do 3-4 more hours work. And I'm usually in bed by 11:30, depend. So I'm in bed by 12. One weekend I work, one weekend I don't, or I do 4 hours, 5 hours Saturday, 4-5 hours Sunday, depend. But most of the time Sundays I do work. Saturdays I'm just like relaxing.
Okay. And how frequently do you take holidays?
I've taken 2 vacations in 10 years.
Not saying anything. Okay. But as long as every day is enjoyable for you.
You know, the best thing I tell people, they said, what is work and life balance? I said, there is no work and life balance as long as what you do, you love. Then you're living what you love. Right? Imagine someone tells you what is your partnerships or relationship balance with your life. If you love the person that you live with, there is nothing to balance with. Right? So, and I think I'm luckiest person. I love what I do. I enjoy my work so much. And the best part of it, you know, not only you're changing people's life, but even our own team, like seeing people progressing. Since so many people came to ApplyBoard work, now they're entrepreneur. Like I know 3 of our own employees that start raising capital and they're now 3 years in the business.
Oh, wonderful.
So like I just love seeing people progressing, whether within ApplyBoard, whether outside. I think I'll take a credit part of it. I feel like ApplyBoard should take a credit if someone excel in their life. Of course, at the end is them. We're just a small part of their life. But I just love that. I think it gives me so much energy.
That's such a great mindset, Meti. Even as an employer, that's a great mindset.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're actually a wonderful person.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So any upskillings that you do for yourself?
I kind of mentioned it on consume information through visual or hearing. I should have read more books, but I'm not generally a lot. So I usually finish 1 or 2 books hearing it through Audible in a month. Okay. I love documentaries.
Okay.
So like that's where my kind of unplugging happens. So like what this person's life story was. What was this? How did, I don't know, like fun guy in jungle work? So like I watch a lot of documentaries and sometimes very unrelated. Like the most recent documentary I watched was a guy that made a yogurt company in US. So like it has nothing to do with the tech, but I found it fascinating. How did you make yogurt and you build company in 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So
And there's so many coming up now following
Yeah.
the suit.
yeah, there's just so much. Like I think everyone has a story. Every single person in the world, we have 8 billion people. Every single person has a story. Not every story gets to told. So I try to learn as much as I can from people's stories, and there's so much content available, so much, unbelievable. You can have internet at any corner of the house or place. At least most people, I should say. I know still a lot of people don't, but you can have access to content so easily than it was 5 years ago. You don't even need to have a super smart phone. You can watch anything on those even old Nokias right now. So, and there is Wi-Fi everywhere. You don't even have it at home. I'm sure there is a Wi-Fi in any cities.
So I've been to Canada last year, and I think India is so much more well connected.
I agree. I fully agree. You know why? Because Canada is the second largest country. Imagine the entire
The
Canada's
land that they have, yes.
population is as Delhi is a little bit less, but think about it. The Canada's entire population is as much as almost Delhi, almost like so. It's
One city, yeah.
second largest country. Okay. Fun fact, I tell you, for every Canadian, there is for every 12 Canadian there is one lake. Canada has over 3.5 million lakes. Maybe about every 14 Canadian at now. But
Planning to own any?
no. No. I have a small pond at my backyard. I'm happy.
What's
Small.
topping your 2025 wish list?
My 2025 wish list?
What do you want to have or achieve or wish to have?
It's a very good question. I'm blessed that I don't need material stuff in my life, so I'm good. I think as I actually grow, I dress more simpler. I like become like I go shopping, I buy 5 shirts of the same thing, and that's about it for the rest of the year.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, I'm actually grateful that I don't need anything material. Maybe beside, I always pray for healthiness, family. I think health is the most number one. It's like, yeah, as long as my families are happy and I have the power and the energy, I think everything else is in our hand and we can make it happen. So there is not a specific one thing that I want to make that happen. There is every day there is a target in my mind. I'll work for it. I'll try to get there. But I think the most important thing, which is, and it's God's power, it's health and family. And I think that's something that is incredibly important. Beyond business, beyond this, beyond anything, my family is my everything. So
That's great, Meti. Like I said, you're a wonderful person.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meti,
Thank you.
for
I
being on the
appreciate
show.
it.